The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
It's coming.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you. It's haunting me. It's just the ghosts of you and me. It's just the smoking gasoline. It's just the ghosts of you and me. Of you and me. All these whispers.
My name is James Hershey. Right back.
All these shadows in my mind. With my reflection I can't find. It's just the ghosts of you and me. It's just the smoking gasoline. It's just the
That ought to
ghosts
do
of
it.
you and me. Of you and me. Don't let them take you away. Don't let them bring you down inside. It's just the mirrors in your mind. Don't let them bring you down.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight? I hope everybody's having a great evening.
On tonight's episode, I'm going to be talking about a place in Illinois called Edwins Roadhouse. It's also known as Miami Gardens. Now, the claim to fame of this place is that Al Capone used to go there. Basically, it's a Prohibition-era building that was built in the late 20s by Henry Bondman. It first opened its doors in 1929, and it was about 45 miles south of Chicago. And at this location is where the mob would go to be safe, where they would go to relax. They would have food, entertainment. It was served as a speakeasy to where they could get illegal booze. And it was nice because it was a secret location that law enforcement did not know about. And this place was extremely cool. It had secret tunnels that led underneath the place to different escape routes. There was even a hidden parking lot underneath the building to where they could pull in secretly where nobody would see them. The upstairs of the building had 11 rooms, and it is said that there was a brothel that was run out of the upstairs there. And there was a master suite which had a custom shower which had 7 shower heads. And it had a unique decor in that bathroom of Nile green porcelain tiles that had purple trim. And an interesting thing is they pulled tiles that looked exactly the same out of other places that Capone was known to live. So they believe that Capone actually did stay there quite a bit. Now you might ask yourself, why are you telling us about some old speakeasy and hideout of Al Capone and other gangsters? What does that have to do with anything? Well, the reason I'm telling you about this is because I received some pictures recently from Melissa DeSantis, who is from Southland Paranormal Society. And she took a bunch of different pictures when she visited this place. And she wanted to know if we saw anything in these pictures. I went through the pictures and I looked at them, and I noticed something a little strange in one of the windows. So I blew the picture up, and sure enough, there was a very spooky-looking entity standing in the window. Now, one glance at this told me that this is not human, whatever this is. For those of you listening on the radio right now, if you go onto Facebook and type in facebook.com/staringintotheabyss, pull up our Facebook page. On that page, you will see 2 pictures. I have put up the blown up version and one that's a little slightly less blown up, that the picture is a little bit clearer. And you can see for yourself what we're looking at here. Now, when you look at this creature, to me, in my mind, it could be one of a couple different things. It could either be you're looking at a shadow person, or you are looking at some sort of demonic entity that is standing there, or it could just be some sort of ghostly apparition, just a normal spirit. One thing I do not believe it is human, though. And if you're looking at the picture right now on Facebook, I'm sure you'll agree with me. Now, the picture is wild enough on its own, but there's also a story that goes along with this picture. Melissa took a tour of this place and walked around. And she said that while she was walking through the place and looking around, that she experienced a lot of shoving, as if there were hands on her back and shoulders that was violently shoving her and pushing on her. She said that the energy felt very angry and very threatening, and that overall she did not feel good in there. She did not feel safe. It felt like something was wrong there, like something bad was about to happen. Now, when you take the picture, you take the feelings of dread and the feelings that she had in the place, and you take the aggressive action of the pushing and shoving and that sort of thing, and you put all that together, to me that would eliminate a normal spirit. I wouldn't think that a normal spirit would be that aggressive and that dangerous and that evil feeling like she described. So to me, that means that what we're dealing with here most likely is either a shadow person or some sort of demonic entity, or at the very least a very, very aggressive and evil entity of some sort. Now, I spoke with her about this, and she agrees with me. She says that was her feeling as well, that it was definitely something evil and something dangerous. Now, see, with shadow people, you have all kinds of different shadow people. We did an entire episode on shadow people, a complete guide to shadow people. If you want to check out that for some really, really in-depth analysis of shadow people, go to the YouTube page, youtube.com/James Hershey Jr., and look up the episode on shadow people. It is eye-opening and mind-blowing. You will really, really like it if you have not already heard it. But for a very quick rundown, you have several different kinds of shadow people. You have shadow people that are just kind of passing through. They're just traveling along. They really don't care about you or what you're doing. Most of the time, they don't pay any attention to you at all. They just move on through. Then you have a group of shadow people that always seem to show up at an event right before something bad happens. So in other words, you're going to have a tragedy of some sort take place, and they will get there before the tragedy occurs. And they'll stick around to watch it, and they'll hang around a little bit afterwards, and then they bail out. Then you have shadow people that like to watch you in particular. A lot of times they'll show up when you're sleeping or when you're alone. They'll be right in the corner of your eye at all times, and you just feel like you're being watched. You can feel it. It's a very real feeling to you that something is watching you. A lot of times with these shadow people, when you turn and look at them, you just catch a glimpse of them as they disappear and they go away. Then you have the more dangerous versions of the shadow people, like the demonic shadow people. That's what we call them, at least. These shadow people are much more aggressive, much more intent on doing you harm. With these shadow people, a lot of times when you're in bed asleep or something, you'll wake up and they'll be right there in your face. There's been a lot of reports of these things jumping on you and scratching you, trying to steal your breath, pushing on you so that you can't breathe. There's even been reports of these things causing heart attacks and stuff like that. Also in this category of demonic shadow people are some that will actually cause you to hurt or kill yourself through possession. There was a case where a spot down by the river where there were shadow people there that were actually possessing human beings and causing them to walk into the river and drown themselves. It was a very fascinating case. I talked about that on another episode as well. I think on the black-eyed children or the black-eyed adult episode. One of those two, I spoke about this case. So with those shadow people, they actually have the ability to possess and cause you to harm yourself or harm other people, which is fascinating stuff. And then you have another classification of shadow person, which I'm not sure, honestly, if it's a shadow person or not. Some people classify this as a shadow person, some people don't. I tend to think that this entity I'm about to talk about is a separate thing, that it's not a shadow person, but it gets lumped into this category sometimes, and that's the Hat Man. We did a whole episode on the Hat Man as well. It was a fascinating episode. So guys, check that out if you haven't seen it, because you'll learn a whole lot about the Hat Man. I tend to think the Hat Man is a separate creature, that it's not actually a shadow person. And I go into great detail on why and give all kinds of witness reports and all that stuff on that episode. But that gets lumped in sometimes with shadow people as well. And then also you have all kinds of different demonic entities, such as demons. And then you also have things like the Hat Man, which I consider a demonic entity that is not a shadow person, that is more flesh and blood. And there's all kinds of different entities that fall under that classification, different creatures as well, that this thing might be. So there's a whole lot of options to choose from. But looking at the picture, it looks strange. It's a humanoid type form, but the features on it definitely do not look human. So it's really up to interpretation what this thing is. If the thing in the window that is in that picture, if that is the same thing that was pushing on Melissa when she went through and shoving her and giving her those feelings of dread, then most likely it's not a flesh and blood creature we're seeing there. It's some sort of spectral creature, some sort of spirit. Now that could be demonic, that could be shadow person. But it kind of rules out a flesh and blood creature as being the culprit, because if it was a flesh and blood creature that was pushing her and shoving her and grabbing her, it would have been easily noticeable by everybody there. So whatever this was invisible to normal vision. So that rules out a whole lot of these creatures that it could be. So it brings us back once again to either a shadow person, a demonic entity, or some sort of vengeful spirit or something like that. So then you also have to consider, if it is a spirit of a human and not a demon of some sort, who might this be? Now there's a lot of people, because Al Capone is tied in with this place, there's a lot of people that are going to say, wow, it might have been Al Capone. Now on this show, we don't ever really rule anything out as impossible. We like to look at everything and have an open mind and try to figure it out. But I will tell you that there have been multiple investigations and multiple psychic mediums and paranormal investigators that have done investigations of Alcatraz, the prison on Alcatraz Island. That is where Al Capone spent a lot of years, in prison. Now, according to several different psychic mediums, according to several different paranormal investigators that did not work together, these are all separate investigations, they made contact with the spirit of Al Capone at Alcatraz. And according to them, that is where his spirit resides, is at Alcatraz. So if Al Capone is at Alcatraz in the afterlife, then most likely what we're looking at here is not Al Capone. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I'm pretty sure it's not Al Capone that we're looking at in that window. The reason I bring that up is because that's the most famous person associated with this place, and that's what everybody's going to probably say. But I don't believe it to be true because, like I said, he's at Alcatraz, according to several different investigations. Now, we do know that this place was a hideout for gangsters. Al Capone was not the only gangster to frequent this place. There was rumored to be murders that were committed there. So you have several different options as far as a vengeful spirit. It could have been one of the people that were killed there. The upstairs, like I said in the beginning, was used as a brothel. So there's a lot of opportunity there for bad things to happen. Some of the murders may have been committed upstairs. It could have been a John that was murdered, or maybe one of the prostitutes that was murdered by a John. So it's very possible that if it is a vengeful spirit that was doing the pushing and the shoving, and if that's the same entity we're looking at in that picture in the window, it's possible that it could be somebody we've never even heard of before. It could just be some guy that went to a prostitute and ended up dead. Or it could be the vengeful spirit of a prostitute that was killed by her John or by her pimp or whatever. Or it could have been somebody that was a gangster that was murdered there. It's really hard to tell. One thing is for sure is that there was something in that window. We have the photographic evidence to prove it. It's right there. You can look at it. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, okay, if you're watching the video of the replay of this show, then that picture will be on the screen. Most likely, I haven't made the video yet because I'm still doing the show on ParaX, but when I make the video, most likely I'm going to use that picture as the backdrop for the show. So during the entire hour show, that picture should be on the screen on YouTube. So you should be looking at that right now. So you can see that there is something there. Now, I don't believe that what we're looking at there is a reflection, because I will tell you the original photo, that window was very, very small, and it was down the bottom left corner of the picture. The focus of the picture, the middle, was on the middle of the building, which isn't even in the picture you're looking at. That picture you're looking at is a blown up portion of the original picture. I saw something down in the corner in that window. It looked like something was there, so I blew the picture up to see what it was. So what you're looking at on the screen is not the original picture. It is a blow up of the original picture, of one section of that original picture. So I don't think it is necessarily a reflection of somebody filming or taking a picture of that window, because the focal point of the original picture was not even in the photograph that you're looking at. What you're looking at, like I said, is a blow up of the bottom left corner of the original photograph. So the original photograph, the focal point is in the middle of the building, not even on your picture. So I don't believe it's a reflection of the person with the camera. I also don't believe it's a reflection of anybody else, because the angle would just be very severe. I don't think that logistically that would work out to where you could see the reflection from the angle that the picture was taken. So we can rule out, at least in my mind, we can rule out a reflection of a person. So then you have to think, okay, is this an actual person standing in the window? I don't believe that it's an actual person that is standing in the window looking out either. Because if you look at the picture, it looks very strange. And it appears that behind the person is either some sort of curtain or some sort of blind or something that's behind them. So if it was a physical person standing in the window, it seems like you would see some sort of ruffling or bending of that curtain or whatever it is behind them, instead of it just looking flat like that. Also, the person lacks detail. A real person standing there would have facial features. In the picture you're looking at, not only is everything gray and black and white, okay, there's no real colors. It's all just kind of a smudge, but the face itself has no defining characteristics. It's got what appears to be eyes, but really nothing else. It's real ghostly looking. It's not well defined at all. And even when you go back to the picture that is not as blown up, you still do not have facial features. So I don't believe that what we're looking at here is an actual person standing in the window either. Even though it does look like it has form and substance a little bit, but it is just too ghostly looking for me. It's not well enough defined to be a real person in my mind. So then we have to ask ourselves, okay, if it's not a person and it's not a reflection, then what the hell is it? If you rule out all of the logical explanations to what we're looking at, you are left only with the illogical. So we've eliminated everything that would explain this away as being something normal. So it must be something paranormal, outside of the ordinary. I believe what we're looking at here is some sort of entity, either a shadow person or a demonic entity, like I said before. That's what I think that this is. Now, unfortunately, I can't really tell you which one, but by the behavior, I would say that either we're dealing with a demonic entity, or if it is a shadow person, I believe that we are dealing with one of the demonic versions of the shadow people. So either way you cut it, I think that this is some sort of demonic entity, or if it's not a demonic entity, it is a vengeful spirit that is very pissed about something because of the way it was behaving. But that's my ruling on it. That's what I feel that it is, and that's what I have deduced from the story that I heard and this photograph. So I'm going to throw over to Old Boy, and I want to get his opinion on what he thinks this is, a rundown on what he took from the story, because he heard it as well, and what he believes that we might be dealing with here.
And thank you, buddy. I'm really interested in this because I saw the picture talking Melissa sent us both. The picture, to me, it didn't look like a shadow person because it's white and it looks like horns. It looks like a demon to me. It might be a shadow person. You never know. I'm not going to throw that out either. But it doesn't look human. I do agree with James on that. It does not look like human at all, guys. If you've seen the picture, it looks like somebody's sitting there and they're white, but it looks like a demon's face. But then you look at other sides, it does look like a shadow person. I would put my bet on it's probably a vengeful ghost or a demon, because the pushing, the shoving, that's a sign of a demon. And it was during the day. And shadow people, sometimes you'll see them during the day, but it's only certain times at night most of the time you see shadow people. And that's why I think, because this was during the day, guys. And I think this was a demon. It looks like a demon. That's my opinion. It could, like I said, it could be possible a shadow person. I wouldn't put that by either. But it's not a human. I could tell you that right now. Because just the way, like James said, you could tell if it was a human. It just doesn't fit that. Why would somebody be in the middle of it might be a homeless person, but you would know. I mean, this place is abandoned. And I mean, there's possibility, I won't say it's impossible, but it's probably highly unlikely it was a human being. It looked like a demon with horns. And I'm glad she sent it, because I said something. I saw some guy, it's a person standing there. No, it's not. I even argue with him. I don't know. There's always going to be somebody who's going to argue it. And, oh, no, that's just a person. Come on, man. Every time it's this. So millions of pictures. There's millions of pictures of different beings, demons, ghosts, millions of cases. And even if 90% of them were wrong, the other ones are unknown or true. It's impossible. People just are, I think what it is, they're scared. They don't want to know there's another world. They'll argue it because then they don't have to believe it. And these things exist. Well, too bad they do exist, and you better wake up, because they're going to, one day something's going to happen, you're not going to know how to deal with it because you didn't believe it wasn't there. So if you don't believe it's not there, it's not going to happen. Or I don't see it, so it doesn't exist. That's the most ridiculous theory of all. I think it's a demon, but it could be a shadow person. The reason why I think it's a demon, because kind of the horns, it looks like it had horns, man. I'm sorry, it does. A little bit. It just got this horny looking head, and it didn't look like a human or a shadow person, because shadow persons are dark with red eyes. This didn't have red eyes. I would put my bet it's a demon. But that is crazy. She was getting shoved. I didn't even know that till James said something in the show earlier. And I think that even convinces me it's demons. And she had a bad dread, like a fear of something watching her. To let you guys know, last couple weeks ago, I'm with Shadows Pit now. It's a paranormal investigation group. And they were attacked by a wraith. This isn't the first time we've dealt with this wraith. It's the second time I've gone with them. I knew it was there before that. Even before I went over there, I knew it was there. And this time I knew it was watching us. So it was making everybody sick, attacking people. I know that's not a demon like they thought. I knew what it was. I've dealt with stuff like this in my past. I've dealt with shadow people. I've dealt with a man in a hat. I've dealt with demons. Trust me, I still do. This, I have a feeling, is a demon. Because I saw it and I felt it. Because I have a sense to this, man, when I can tell something's like that. And what she said, and I could close my eyes and feel where that building's at, and I could feel there's an evil entity there. And he said there's murders, and there's a brothel house. All kinds of stuff probably happened to this place. Even after that, probably homeless people have been killed. You don't know what's happened there, but people have been murdered. And we'll get into Al Capone in a little bit. I was going to ask James a question in a couple minutes, and we'll get to that. But it's not Al Capone's ghost. That's more Alcatraz, like James was talking about. There's numerous psychics and ghost hunters have said they've talked to him there. So that's where I think he was at. That's where he's at. He's not there. It may be somebody who was murdered. It may be a gangster that was evil that got killed there in a shootout or murdered. You never know. I just remember, evil with bad things that happen at places, it gathers itself. So there was probably a lot of negativity at this place. There's a lot of things were going shady here. You know, gambling, prostitution, murdering, liquor, because at the time then it was illegal to have liquor. Prohibition. So just stuff that's illegal. Drugs, probably anything you can think of as legal was probably going on there. And probably people got jealous or had a girlfriend that was working the brothel house, got slapped around, and they killed the dude. Or people got out of hand, snitches, they killed somebody there, and they probably did it in some really bad ways. So there's probably some of these spirits there, some vengeful spirits or evil there. Because a lot of evil stays around and negativity, whereas there's been a lot of bad things that's happened. And that building, I could feel it just off the pictures. In the red building, it's just, I could feel there's a lot of hate, a lot of sadness, a lot of dread, a lot of evil. I feel a lot of evil presence. And that was probably an evil ghost or a demon. And it felt like that. When you look at the picture, some people have this thing that you can feel it. I could feel the presence of evil. Even that whole place, I just got an eerie feeling of it. If I was there right now, I would probably feel like that. Because I could feel when evil's around. I know when it's around. Just looking at there, I knew there was evil there. It didn't take me long to realize what that is. And shadow people, there's demonic shadow people. I think they're all somewhat demonic, or they're from another dimension, but they're all connected in some way. Some just like to watch, some likes to hurt people, some likes to take over your body and kill you. Some just like to feel where bad things have happened, and they like to sit around and get the negativity and take off. So that could be the possibility of the shadow person. That's where that comes into play too, guys. So that could be that too. But it could be numerous things there. It felt like there was more than just that thing there. So it could have been demons, shadow people. It could be all kinds of things there. Vengeful spirits. Just a lot of bad things to be there. You know, it's probably more than one. I can guarantee it. I could already feel it was more than one presence there. And it could be ghosts there too. But pushing and shoving, that's something that sounds like there was something demonic and it was going after them in that place. I guess they're doing, they do paranormal investigations too. And they probably, she's saying she was kind of pushed around. She had bad feelings. I mean, that sounds like something evil there. So it could have been numerous things at this place. This place is huge. It's like 2 or 3 stories. It's a big building. And it's just huge. If you've seen a picture of it, please try to check it out on the site, like he said, and you'll see what I'm talking about, because it's impossible to tell somebody over radio how big it is. It's just big. It's a big place, but it's like brick. All red brick kind of, and it's gloomy, bad feeling. And you see this weird creature, ghost kind of spirit, hanging out, looking out the window, and out of the bottom, it's like on the bottom floor. And it was really eerie. So I believe that's what that is. That's my theory. I believe that it is probably a demon, and it's probably about a 30% chance it was a shadow person. And there's more than that. There's could be my bet would be there's more than one thing there, and that's what I'm going to stick with. If you ever messed with demons like I have, usually they mess with you at any time, not while you sleep. See, the shadow people like to suffocate you or take your life away, scratch you when you sleep. Demons do too, but demons will mess with you at any time. It doesn't matter if it's noon, night, day, in the morning. It doesn't matter. So this was during the day. So that sounds to me more like a demon or a vengeful spirit, and because I've been attacked by him, and it's not fun. And that's why it sounds like to me she was getting attacked by something. And they're probably lucky they got out of there without somebody getting very hurt, because that's what happened. See, that's why I tell people, when you're going to mess with demonic spirits or shadow people or any kind of vengeful spirit, please protect yourself and know what you're dealing with. Because some of these people just go thinking they're going to go fight ghosts or demons, and there's other stuff that could be there. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can get somebody possessed. They can take something back to them. Because I'm doing this stuff now with the paranormal groups, and I try to explain to them, you can bring stuff home with you, and you don't want some of this stuff home with you. Trust me, it's not good. So remember that, guys. I know you guys like this kind of stuff, but if you're really got something, please try to find somebody professionally know what they're doing. Don't try to solve it yourself, or just get into this stuff just for a hobby, because it's not about that. So the one thing I was going to bring up about Al Capone, I didn't know if he died at Alcatraz or not. James, can you answer that for me?
I'm actually glad that you asked that, because that is a common misconception. I've heard that from a lot of different people, that when I get to talking about Alcatraz and stuff, because I love Alcatraz, I'm very obsessed with it. And everybody always says, well, Al Capone died at Alcatraz and his spirit is still there. Well, he didn't die at Alcatraz. He spent years at Alcatraz. He absolutely did. But he actually got out of Alcatraz. They let him out because he had syphilis, and it had gotten to the point where it infected his brain, and he couldn't even follow simple commands. But he actually died in a mansion, believe it or not, in Palm Island, Miami Beach, Florida. On January 21st, 1947, he ended up having a stroke there. And he was pretty bad off, but he ended up regaining consciousness. And he even started to get a little bit better. But then on the 22nd, the very next day, he had a massive heart attack and died. He got syphilis as a young man. And for people that don't know how syphilis works, syphilis has 3 major stages that you go through. In the beginning, you have like a sore. It doesn't really hurt or anything like that, but it's just nasty. And that's usually on your genital area because it's a sexually transmitted disease. And it can come from like 3 days to all the way up to 90 days after you catch syphilis is when the sore arrives. Okay, now the sore will last for a little while and then it goes away. The next stage of syphilis is where the person that is infected with it gets a rash. And that rash can cover the majority of the body, or even sometimes all of the body. Now, this secondary stage of syphilis will occur around 4 to 10 weeks after your initial exposure to syphilis. And it lasts a little bit, and then it goes away. And see, this is the point where you think you're better, because years and years and years can go by where you have absolutely no symptoms. You have no idea that you even have syphilis anymore. As far as you know, you're fine. But what is happening inside your body is the syphilis is kind of going undercover. So it's burrowing itself into every organ, into your brain. It especially likes your liver, your heart, and your brain. That's where it mainly attacks. Now, by the time you get to the final stage of syphilis and you start becoming symptomatic again, it can be literally a decade or more after your initial exposure. By the time you're actually showing symptoms of the 3rd stage of syphilis, it's too late. There's pretty much nothing you can do at this point. And it's going to end up killing you. But before it kills you, it messes your brain up real bad. So that you're kind of walking around in a daze all the time. Some people even kind of go a little crazy, to where they start acting very strange and doing strange things. Sometimes they get illusions of grandeur. They think they're superhuman. They get violent sometimes. With Al Capone, he became childlike almost catatonic. There was times when the guards were trying to get him to do things when he was in Alcatraz, and he could not follow simple commands. And it wasn't just because he felt like being difficult. He literally couldn't even figure out how to pick up his own food tray and stuff so that he could feed himself. It got bad. So they ended up letting him out, and they basically put him on a form of like a house arrest, you would say nowadays. And he got to go stay in his mansion in Miami Beach, Florida, down in Palm Island. So he hung out there until the day he died. But he wasn't really living in the lap of luxury, because at this point he was really out of it. But that's a common misconception that a lot of people have, and I don't know where that comes from. But I hear that a lot whenever the subject of Alcatraz comes up, that Capone actually died in Alcatraz, and it's just simply not true. I hope that answers your question, brother.
Well, thank you, because I was just wondering that, because I've always thought that too, because I've heard it, but then I never really knew. I never really studied Alcatraz, because this is what we weren't really talking about. I just wanted to ask that question so other people would realize what we were talking about Al Capone. Yeah, he didn't die at Alcatraz. Well, that's good, and now I know that. So, well, thank you. That answered my question on there. See, the thing is with Melissa, I didn't talk to her like James did. I talked to her a little bit on Facebook. And she was asking a bunch of questions. See, she had posted all these pictures and asked me and James about it, and I finally saw it, and I told her my opinion. And like I said, there's people there arguing, and I didn't want to get into it because, like I said, I hate getting in arguments with people because it's just pointless, because you're not going to change somebody's mind. It doesn't matter. Like I told people before, I can jump in your lap, and they would still say it's not real. It's CGI. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know too much about the story in Illinois. Shadow people altogether, if it's shadow people now, that's kind of interesting, because that means some bad things have happened there, so they're just hanging around there, they're lost. And like I said, that's why I really don't believe they're shadow people. I think it's probably a demon, because it's hanging around and it's probably waiting for people like them to come in and investigate. Or there's homeless people. There's probably been homeless people who's probably gone there and lived there, especially in Illinois and stuff like that, and they probably got killed there too. You don't know what's going on. People, even after all this stuff and abandoned stuff, people go in looking, exploring. Some people go in there to do rituals. A lot of Satanists and people who want to be Satanists go and, when they're young, try to mess with stuff and conjuring demons. They probably heard this, probably had Al Capone's ghost there, and you had people going there trying to do all kinds of weird stuff. You never know. It would be nice to go, but I don't live in Illinois. I live here in California, and James lives in Virginia. So it's not something we're never going to really see unless we get a video. That would be nice if Melissa listened to the show. Maybe the next time they go check that place out, they can get some video of it. That would be really interesting. I just thought about that, and we could actually see, and I could feel a little bit what's going on there and know more about the story. Because all I know is what James has said, and I left a little bit on Facebook. Didn't find too much, just a couple of things here and there. And it was pretty much what he said. It's just going off of what her experiences were and what I've seen. That's all I could say, is maybe we can get a video of it. That would be kind of cool, because then we could actually see what's going on there and see if anything we see and catch anything on camera, get anything on the meters they got, of whatever kind of equipment they got, because, I don't know what they're carrying. I don't really know. I know her. I'm not best. I don't know everything about her. I just know we talk once in a while on Facebook, and she just showed me some evidence. She's told me stuff before, so I'm glad she showed me some evidence, because people, like I said, always give us evidence. We're always open to evidence. So remember that, guys, just to remind you. So, like I said, I just have to see more evidence on this, but what I've seen in the picture, I think that's a demon. I would put my money on it. But is there anything else in there? There's a possibility on that. What do you think about that, James, what I said about the video of her taking it, maybe going in there, looking around, seeing if we could actually get more footage and evidence of the place? That would be nice.
She does have an open invitation to investigate that place. And she was telling me that she has that open invitation, but she doesn't know if she wants to go back because of the experience that she had and now seeing that thing in the window. I don't know whether she will be going back or not. I think that it would be very interesting to get some sort of video or figure something like that out. Would be great. But it's just a matter of if she feels comfortable going in there and if it is safe for them to see. I don't know if she travels with a whole team or if it's just her or what's going on. I would not recommend going in by yourself. I guarantee that. If you're going to go back, Melissa, I would take a team with you, take some more people that can have your back and help you out, because whatever is in there is evil and it is dangerous. So just keep that in mind. If you do not feel comfortable going back in around that, then believe me, there's no shame in that. I don't blame you at all. Because from what I saw from that picture, it looks spooky. And see, I lived right outside of St. Louis for 4 years, down at Scott Air Force Base. And so I'm familiar with Illinois, and I'm familiar with this area. And I'll tell you that Illinois is supposed to be like the Bible Belt, but there are some wicked, wicked things going on in that state. There's an underground current in that state that I saw, and in Indiana next door, and Missouri as well, of a lot of satanic activity that goes on there. Believe it or not, you have a very large presence of that kind of stuff. I think that the idea that everybody gets of it being the Bible Belt, that old saying, everybody thinks that everybody there is Bible thumping and well behaved, but that's just not the truth. That wasn't my experience from living there. What I saw when I was in Illinois was, first of all, a lot of corn. There's a ton of corn in Indiana and in Illinois. It's pretty much all you see. And the funny thing is, when I first went there, I was like, wow, look at all this corn. This is awesome. And then that got old quick. And then I was like, man, I feel like I'm in a episode of Hee Haw or something. All this corn, it's crazy. And by the time I left Illinois, I did not want to see any more damn corn. And now I'm back in my mountains again in Virginia, and I find myself planting fields of corn here so that I can see the corn again. Isn't that weird? How I did not want to see it, and now I kind of miss it. But there's a lot more that goes on there than meets the eye. There's a lot of rituals that happen. There's a lot of satanic and a lot of witchcraft and a lot of stuff like that that's happening. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case here. I'm just saying in that general area, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, especially in a lot of these small towns in Illinois. So I would not be surprised. Basically, anything you would tell me about this place, it wouldn't surprise me. Because after living there for 4 years, I've seen some crazy stuff in Illinois. And nobody would expect it. I saw some stuff in cornfields, man, that would just blow you away. And there's some unbelievably horrible things that I witnessed when I lived in Illinois. There was a huge Klan presence at the time in Illinois. And at the time I was there, I was in high school. And being a base kid, living on an Air Force base, the majority of my friends were all different colors and all different races. Well, in that particular area, they did not care very much for the black kids from the base. Because, like I said, there was a huge Klan presence at the time. And I've seen young black men barbed wired into their trucks and set on fire. I've seen people ended up dead in cornfields. I mean, we literally had a giant war where we met up in a field one day with bats and chains and clubs and everything else, and we just fought it out. A lot of people talk about civil rights, and I think it's funny because a lot of people assume that I'm this racist guy or something because I'm a redneck from the mountains of Virginia, right? But I've actually bled for civil rights. I fought the Klan myself. I took a baseball bat to the head. I've been beaten with chains. I got scars on my body where I've been sliced open, protecting my brothers in the military from these people. I've actually bled and fought against that evil. So I always think it's kind of strange, and I always hear that from people, when they find out where I'm from. Especially sometimes if I'm hanging out up here with my mountain folk too long and my accent starts to get a little bit heavy, to where I sound a little more southern than I normally sound, which happens when I get up around the hollers up here. I'll start to it'll come on thick. But I'll talk to people at signings and stuff sometimes, and they find out where I'm from, and they're like, oh my God, you must be a racist. I can see it in their face, and sometimes they even say it. I grew up all over the world, man. I love everybody. I don't give a damn what color you are. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care about any of that. I love everybody. I say it here every week, and I absolutely mean it. That's the way I live my life. And I just always thought it was funny that assumption is always made about me because I'm Southern. When in reality, I've actually bled. I bear the scars on my body for fighting against the Klan to protect black people. Whereas the people that usually are saying it to me have done nothing more than write a Facebook post or something about it. You know what I mean? But I guess that's the way it is anymore, is a lot of people tend to know everything when they really don't know much. There's a lot that goes on in Illinois that people don't realize goes on in Illinois. The reason I brought up that whole story was because when you hear something like that, you automatically are going to assume Deep South. That's what you're going to think. Oh, that must have been in the South where that happened. No, that happened in the Democratic state of Illinois. That didn't happen down South. I've lived down South. I'm from the South. That kind of stuff doesn't happen here. It might have happened here many, many decades ago, but that's not my experience of living here now. I don't see that kind of stuff. But I absolutely did see it there. And I absolutely did fight against it there. And make no mistake, that's evil. That's just as evil as whatever demon is in this place. So anything that's going on, as far as like what old boy was saying about witchcraft and seances going on there and maybe different rituals performed, it would not surprise me because there is a very large population of satanic and evil people in that area. A lot more than people think.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, man. I've heard that too. It isn't just Illinois; it's in St. Louis. Because isn't that where I think it's The Exorcist, isn't it, in St. Louis? I don't know for a fact. It's one of those. I know something happened in that area in St. Louis. Yeah, there's a lot of witchcraft and evil stuff that goes on around that area in St. Louis, Kansas. We don't want to forget Kansas. That's all in the Midwest. I'm from Pennsylvania originally. I'm a Yankee. So I never really went to the South. I drove through it, like he was saying. I don't know too much about the South. I could tell you California has a lot of evil stuff going on. There's a lot of satanic rituals and that in Arizona and Nevada. But I can't, I never really heard anything about Chicago other than a couple things here and there. And I'm starting to learn a lot more stuff's going on there. So I wouldn't put it past there because when I went to a place out in Lucerne Valley, there was writings on the wall. People were doing witchcraft, and you could see they did like the little markings, and I could tell what it was. They were doing satanic rituals there too, and you could feel there was something there. It was just weird. You could feel somebody was watching us. Like the building was all messed up, everything was down, and I think it was a shadow person. But getting off that subject, I'm not trying to get on to the whole Illinois thing. That is kind of weird. In Pennsylvania, they had cornfields too. Some places, because I was by the Amish Dutch. I was a couple hundred miles away from Ohio, so there's a lot of corn in Pennsylvania right there too. I'll tell you a story real quick, and we'll hurry up and get about this crazy story. I'll do it real quick. My real dad had me for the weekend, and I remember there's a bunch of cornfields. It was somewhere in Pennsylvania. It was like the border of Ohio, and there was this house that we used to go into, and it was like it looked like it used to be like a mansion or a hotel, I don't know, but it was all messed up. There's papers everywhere, and there's a cellar. No one would ever go down there because you could hear stuff, and we could hear things. Well, one night we were walking by it. It was during the night, and then my aunt happened to be there. I don't know why she was there. All of a sudden we heard somebody screaming and yelling, and the place turned into flames. It was a spooky old house. 2-story, 3-story, and it just turned into flames. They could never find out. We heard the guy screaming in there. They never found him. We don't know if he got out or did or not. But somebody purposely lit that house on fire for a reason. And that everything was burnt except that one building. The cellar. And it was dark and spooky, and they said the cops had to go about 6 or 7 down there. Couldn't see anything, didn't find nothing. But I would remember when I was a kid, I'd go by that still. We would go in there to see what happened, and I could feel something was in that cellar. Whatever happened to that guy, something got him in that cellar. So that's a story that I wanted to share about that. I don't know how much time we have, but that's something I wanted to tell you guys.
I want to do a show one day on spontaneous human combustion. I think that would be so interesting. That reminded me of that for some reason. I guess maybe because a house caught on fire or somebody caught it on fire. Yeah, but my advice is, back to the original subject we're supposed to be talking about. We kind of got off on a tangent, which will happen now and again. But my advice is, if you don't feel comfortable going back there to investigate the place, then don't. It would be great to have some video. It would be great to have more evidence. We always want more evidence. But we do not want evidence at the cost of somebody's safety. Only go and investigate these kind of places. Only put yourself in these positions if you understand what you're getting into and you're willing to take that chance. Because it is dangerous, especially if what we're dealing with here is a demon. That's like a lot more dangerous than just a normal vengeful spirit or a shadow person. Because with a demon, there's a much higher possibility of them following you home. And when they follow you home, it's not like they just hang out and tell you what's going to be on TV tomorrow. they do horrible things. They mess with your entire family. They can possess you. They can possess your family. They can ruin your life. They are not good. Okay, so that's something that you have to know what you're getting into with demons. You have to be prepared and ready for anything that could happen. Because see, a lot of people don't realize that if you become possessed by a demon, they think, well, I'll just get a priest to do an exorcism. Okay, well, you can't just get the priest down the street to do an exorcism because the majority of pastors and preachers don't know how to do an exorcism. There's not that many actual preachers that know how to do a real exorcism right. So then you have to find somebody. First off, the exorcism has to be sanctioned by the church in the first place, by the Catholic Church. So you have to go through that rigmarole. And that takes a while. So then once you get somebody official to come down and do it, then they have to do it. Okay, so the exorcism could take anywhere from days to weeks to months. And there's no guarantee that they're going to get the thing out. And if they are successful in getting the demon out, it could just come right back. Which happens a lot, believe it or not. There's people that have had exorcisms done dozens and dozens of times. Because as soon as the demon gets out, it's gone for a couple hours and it pops right back in. Because there's literally nothing to stop him from coming back. If you're a saved person with the Holy Spirit inside of you, you cannot be possessed. But if you're an unsaved person, there's nothing stopping that demon from coming right back. And the Bible says that when the demon comes back, he brings 7 of his friends that are even more powerful than him. So the state of that man is worse than before. Okay, that's what the Bible says about it. So that means that they come in, they do an exorcism, they pop that puppy out of you, right? It comes back, but it brings a bunch of its bigger, badder friends, and they possess you. So now instead of having one demon that's a pain in the butt, you have 8 demons, which really suck. And they're a lot more powerful. So then the exorcism to get them out is going to be a lot harder. And there's a lot less chance of it working. But let's say somehow it does work, and they get them out. Well, then they just come back. But they bring even more of their friends that are tougher. And you see how this keeps going. So you got to be very, very careful when you're dealing with demons. They are nothing to be played with. And even if you are a saved individual like I am that cannot be possessed, that does not mean that that demon cannot follow you home. Just because you're saved, all that means is that demon cannot possess you. It does not mean that it can't mess with you. Okay, it can attack your family. It can attack your life. It can ruin your life. It can get you fired from your job. It can do all kinds of horrible things to you. It just can't physically possess you. But there's nothing stopping it from possessing some other person and having that person come and cut you to pieces. So there's always a way around it. So you got to be careful. Even if you're saved, you got to be careful. Because demons, by definition, are evil. They're not going to look you in the eye and tell you you're pretty. They're not going to tell you which dress makes you look fat and which dress doesn't. They're going to destroy you. That's what they do. But we're almost out of time, so I'm going to throw back over to Old Boy so that he can do his shout-outs.
Thank you, brother. And I want to thank everybody. All our followers, our fans, like I say every week, so I sound like a broken record. So I'll do it a little bit different. Thank you guys. I love you guys. I appreciate all the support we get on the YouTube page. Just remember, check it out. James Hershey Jr., he'll tell you the rest. You can listen to all our old shows and new ones. We get a lot of, subscribers, a lot of people commenting. I even did some stuff on Facebook. I'm doing a lot of Facebook page now. If you guys want to go on my Facebook page, all our information's on there now. If you want to check it out, you can hit my sites. You can look up my Facebook pages, our YouTube page, Shadow's Pit page, Staring in the Abyss page, James Hershey. All that stuff's on there now, so you guys can check that out. And you can email me at Kane1versus@gmail.com if you guys want to write me and talk to me. Or you can write, and James will tell you his email address. And if you guys want merchandise, check us out. He'll tell you how to get some shirts or whatever else you want. You can get a whole bunch of stuff, iPhone cases, baby clothes, all kinds of stuff. He'll tell you. But I want to thank you guys. I love doing this show every week, man. And we're getting a lot of people talking about want us to do stuff on TV, other than just radio. Because that's the big thing, is getting on a big channel, and doing on a radio. But people want us to do a radio. I did a thing asking if they want to see us on TV, and people said, yeah. So that's maybe in the works down the line. You never know. So I love you guys. Have a great night, Misfits, Sugar Ladies, and Demon Hunters. I love you. Have a good night. Blessed be. And come get lost with us. That's all I got to say. Have a good night, guys.
The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. The merchandise store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. That's teespring.com, teespring.com/stores with an S on the end, /staring into the abyss. There's t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, posters, iPhone cases, the whole nine. Everything's there. So if you're interested in merchandise, that's where you go to get it. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for all your support and all your love. It really means a lot to me that you guys enjoy the show and that you find value in listening every week. I greatly appreciate that. And believe me, I do not take that for granted. I try very hard to give you a very good show. Some weeks are going to be very, very research heavy, and some weeks are going to be not so research heavy. But we always try to make it good. Next week's show is going to be one that I have been working on for years. It is a show that is years and years and years in the making. We decided to do the show 6 months, 7 months ago, something like that. We decided to do this show. But the research that has gone into this show has been going on for years. It is the Origin of Monsters show. Okay, in this episode, I'm going to explain the origin story of pretty much all the monsters that we have today. It's going to be phenomenal. I hope you guys can tune in. I hope that you check it out because it's going to be really, really good. That's all the time we have for this week. Thank you again for listening. I love you very much. And until I speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.